creative ways to engage customers through social media. Pretty boring topic, if you ask me. I've taken it as a given in this short little 5-minute presentation that we do a lot of commercial stuff on Facebook and in social media for Scoot. Retailing activities, all of those type of things, and I don't think I need to go through those personally. I think that you can go to our website and you can go to Facebook and you can go and have a look at what we do. It's pretty black and white. What I thought we'd do today is just talk about personality, is talk about what we do above and beyond all the corporate crap that everyone else does as well, that probably makes us a little bit more distinctive in terms of our approach on social media. Who thinks the world has become very corporatized and boring? Come on, put up your hands. Thank you. From my perspective, I think that we're becoming so sanitized that we might as well just fall asleep. Here is Mr. Ed Miliband, who, for those of you who don't know, he's the leader of the Labor Party in the UK. And I just picked this randomly out the other day, which I thought just typifies or really demonstrates how bland this world has become. In that this poor gentleman was going up to the north of England and he was eating a bacon sandwich. And unfortunately, this bacon sandwich, he was having somewhat of a difficulty eating the bacon sandwich, that his minders told him to stop eating the bacon sandwich because it was an image problem for him. This is how bland things have become. So, from what am I trying to get to here? If you listen to your comms and PR gurus, you need to be appetizing yet bland, so you can appeal to the masses, which basically means you don't have any personality. When you look and you speak to your marketing people, they say to you that your brand needs a personality. I can guarantee you 9 out of 10 companies that participate in social media have the personality of probably a middle-aged accountant, male, 40 years of age, hasn't had sex, never had a drink, and doesn't have hasn't had a good time if it's hit him over the head. And you look at some of these guys that participate in the social media space, and you just sit there and scratch your head and say, what the hell are you doing? Now, what makes us different? What are we going to do? I'm going to take you through 3 case studies which are out of the corporate environment, which are out of the retailing environment that we do engage in, that give us just maybe a little bit of tonality within the social media space, and maybe just a little bit of interest, and maybe attracts a certain degree of people that maybe wouldn't necessarily be attracted to an airline, which is typically quite a bland product within itself. The first one is SGAG. I'm going to talk about SGAG. Does anyone know about SGAG in Singapore? All the white people won't, because they haven't homogenized with our local Singaporeans. SGAG is a topical website here in Singapore. You should go and check it out if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of everything that is Singapore. Second one is a co-op that we did with Bread Talk last year. And the third, does everyone know Anton Casey? Yes? You were his girlfriend for a while there, weren't you? Anyway, Anton Casey, we'll talk about Anton Casey and what we did with Anton Casey as well. SGAG. SGAG is very much a topical website within Singapore, very much heavily Singaporean overtones and so forth, making political observations, making just general commentary and observations within society. And they're quite an interesting one, and they do take the piss out of pretty well everyone. No one is a no-go area except, I think, for the Prime Minister. They had a bit of a go at us last year. This time last year, we launched flights to North Korea and Seoul. I would like to go to North Korea. We launched flights to Seoul and Nanjing. In Seoul, unfortunately, at that time last year, we had North Korea threatening nuclear war and everything else in between. And in Nanjing, we had bird flu. So they thought it was actually quite funny, and they started taking the piss out of us because they said, obviously the timing of our launch festivities and so forth were completely inappropriate. Now, the interesting thing with SGAG is a lot of corporates shy well away from SGAG. They don't engage SGAG at all. Yet SGAG has a huge following here in Singapore. And what we decided to do was take SGAG on. And in the instance of the Seoul and Nanjing flights, we actually went after SGAG and offered them free flights for all of their employees, and also free flights for a 24-hour period for their supporters of their website as well. Interestingly, they didn't take our first flight, but There was a lot of toing and froing between us and SGAG, quite topical. A lot of people latched onto this. Thousands of people left commentary. The interesting thing is, for something as stupid and as innate as this, in terms of something as basic as this, those social media experts out there who publish everything in papers and all this type of thought this was absolutely rocket science. This was amazing. That how an entity such as Scoot could actually engage SGAG in a witty banter and actually come out on top and actually have their supporters supporting Scoot in the end as well. It's not rocket science. It's just making sure that you're engaging the right audience, and you're also doing it in a way that is topical and people can see it for what it is. But I can guarantee you that most companies will not do this because they're too damn scared that they're going to embarrass themselves or somehow corrupt their image in the marketplace. When in fact, actually engaging SGAG and its supporters did a huge amount of good for ourselves in terms of the brand, a huge amount of fan likes and so forth. I think the one conversation that we had had something like 2,500 likes in the space of 3 hours. So that's SGAG. Very basic, but engagement at its most basic level, but something that really hit a good tone within Singaporean followers of SGAG. The second one is co-ops. This is more corporatized. We had a cooperative with Bread Talk. I'm sure all of you know who Bread Talk are. And it was the perfect bulo. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not. But it was actually to support our launch of Perth and Hong Kong flights, which were in, if my memory serves me correctly, October last year. So we partnered with Bread Talk, and we basically came up. They actually created a special bread to celebrate our first flights to Perth and Hong Kong. Sounds basic enough and pretty boring and bland. What we did is then we moved it onto the social media space and had people actually go out and buy said bread to celebrate the launch of the flights, and asked them to Instagram their pictures with the bread. I won't publish the ones that there was a fair few blacklisted. It was interesting to see what people could do with bread at home. Very creative, the Singaporean society. But we basically had not a quiz, an election of what was the most the popular photos were, and the winners were able to come on our first flights as well. So something very, very basic, but again, something just on the side that continues to generate interest. We had 2,700 entries in 30 days, which was quite surprising. In the final one, real-time marketing, Anton Casey. I won't talk about what he did or what he said or if it's right or what. That's for other people to talk about. For me, Anton Casey and for my team was a great opportunity to also celebrate the launch of our Perth flights being on promo. If you remember, Anton Casey and said family actually left and went to Perth. We had, as soon as that came out in the news, we followed up on social media and pretty well everything else in terms of having a special Anton Casey sale to Perth. Now, the interesting thing is that I was actually against this. I thought it was too risque, and my team, who have been exposed to me for too long, thought it was perfectly okay to go after. But we did this. It had a massive, massive following. We took a risk, and we did get criticism, no doubt. We had criticism. We had a haze sale. So when the haze was on last year, we put on a haze sale so people could escape Singapore. That wasn't deemed too popular by some people in government, and the Anton Casey one wasn't either. But nevertheless, it just goes to show that we're willing to push the boundaries, probably more so than most corporate entities here in Singapore, and it resonates. It resonates. Who is interested in a managed accountant? Not me. In terms of engagement, in terms of social media. Who is interested in someone that actually is tapped into the market, understands, plays on what is topical, and reaches out and actually has the same language as those who use social media? Yes, that's where it sticks, that's where it gels, and that's where we spend a lot of our time. So the Anton Casey one was incredibly popular. It got picked up across the board by publications and so forth within Singapore as well. I have no idea why my team stuck a picture of a kid on a toilet. I will go to that's it's presentation bingo for my team. Just the final one. I think that for us, in terms of our social media engagement. media engagement in all seriousness, there's really 4 quadrants that we go after. 1, entertain, inspire, educate and convince. I think Mad, certainly through the videos and so forth that he was presenting, that's certainly an inspirational part, and we do that. The stuff that I think gets forgotten by a lot of corporates is really the entertainment part, is the part about self-depreciation, making fun of yourself and making fun of the situation around you. And that's what we try to do. We also educate. I mean, the Perfect Bulo was a classic example of a co-op arrangement where we're educating people about our new destinations as well. And in terms of convincing, well, that's the holy grail. If anyone's got an answer about how to convince everyone to come and buy and fly Scoot, that would be fantastic. So that's it. I'm going to leave it at that because I would really love some Q&A so we can spice up this afternoon. So I'll leave you to it. Cheers.
So Stephen, one question for you. So since you mentioned about or spoke about trolling online, say in the recent times there are various examples in travel industry in the social media sector where, for example, companies asking users to use a particular hashtag, but in Twitter, but users hijacking the hashtag and posting negative sentiments or negative comments about the particular brand, and completely it's little hijack of the discussion. And so that is one, for example, recent would be the McD stories, MCD, McD stories. So that is a hashtag that the company shared. I mean, they asked users to share their happy McD stories, McDonald's stories, but what the Twitter people did is they hijacked the hashtag and they started posting unpleasant or unhappy or their bitter experiences in McDonald's, and they started tagging with McD. And the other more airline-related example would be Qantas Luxury. So that's a recent hashtag that went on a hijacking mode. People started posting funny pictures and comments about the brand, but started again a hijacking example for this particular hashtag. The reason another could be like the Thai Airways. So what they did when the flight had a little unsafe landing, the first thing the team did was social media. Team was blacking out the logo. So that particular picture went super viral, and it got a lot of negative publicity for the brand. So when all these things happen, Stephen, so how does a brand respond to this particular troll, or it could be a negative PR via social media? What are the top 3 things that brands should do in this kind of scenarios?
We have a classic example. We had. Did anyone? Know about the world's longest virtual flight from last year? No? Okay, we ran the world's longest virtual flight. It was a social media game, and there were so many users that the game collapsed. It was about 10,000 users in one session. And there was $20,000 prize. And we got absolutely burnt. The game collapsed. You had 10,000 users who had taken a couple of days off work so they could play. All of this type of stuff, and it just collapsed on us. Anyway, long story short, that was probably our Thai Airways disaster or Qantas Airways disaster. If you listen to all the so-called experts, they were just running around and basically saying, oh, you should just say something. For saying something. In the instance of the failure that we had with the world's longest virtual flight, I think the best advice is just tell the truth. When the game collapsed, which was on a Thursday from memory, Thursday evening when we kicked off the game, we didn't come out straight away and apologise. We didn't come out straight away and say anything, which is, if you read the space at the time, a lot of people were saying, why are they quiet? You know, it's been 2 hours and they're quiet, they're not saying anything. What we're actually doing is, we weren't dumbfounded, we were actually just trying to work out exactly what went wrong. And when we came back in the morning, there was a personal message from me that detailed exactly what we believed had gone wrong in terms of the game, what we were going to do about it, and when we were going to run the game again, and what was going to be different. So we took our time. We didn't take a huge amount of time, but we took our time to really come back and just be very, very detailed about what exactly went wrong, and that calmed things down quite a lot. I think people can get a bit carried away with these type of things. There's no hard and fast rule with any of this, as far as I'm concerned. Be it an aircraft incident or a social media issue or whatever the case may be, you've just got to play it by ear. But we've had a number of failures. Airlines are, we're not immune to delays. All of these type of things. People love getting their phones out now and tweeting at the boarding gate that their flight's been delayed by 5 hours and the engine's fallen off or something like that. These things you cannot avoid anymore. But from our perspective, we've just been, whenever these instances have occurred, we've just basically said this is what's happening.
Okay.
We haven't tried to paste over it. And I see a lot of sanitization going on with a lot of companies. They sit there and go, oh, this isn't happening over here. Or we're not going to admit to it, or have you. You might as well just be honest, because it's there in the public space anyway.
Right.
So that's what we did.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stephen.